In this video, we're looking at how to create a digital estimate in ePrint MIS. I'm in the estimating screen already. If I hover over the Estimates tab, I can select Add New. And on the first screen, I can start by adding the customer name. I just type the first few letters of their name, and then I can select from the customer list. If our customer has multiple contacts, we can select the correct contact from the list. You can have as many contacts as you wish per customer. We can see how the customer is going to be addressed, which department they're in, their address details, etc. In this case, we're going to create a digital sheet-fed estimate, and this system is defaulting to that setting, but you could select an alternative estimate type if you wished. For digital work, we can do single items, booklets or pads. We'll just start off with a simple single item. Let's call it a flyer. We've got a status of RFQ, that's short for request for quote. We can have any status we like, and you can set up your own statuses in the system. You don't have to use our demonstration status. You can also have as many dates here as you wish. In this case, all the dates are turned on. I'm just going to ignore them for now, but these dates can be tuned or turned off in the settings. On the second screen, we can put in the quantities we want to quote for, and we can quote for up to 4 quantities at a time. We can select the press we want to use. I'm going to use this Konica press, and that's defaulting to a 180 GSM gloss stock. I'm going to change that by clicking on this plus button. From our paper list, I'll select an alternative stock. That press is set up with a setup spoilage of 3 sheets and a running spoilage of 3%. Again, I can tune those here if I want. We're going to do this double-sided, colour on both sides. Could have done black and white on one side if I wanted. The print sheet size, that's the size of the sheet that we feed into the press. And the finished job size is the size of the finished item once we've guillotined it. So I'm going to change the finished job size to be A4. We can use custom sizes for both of these fields, and the system can also be configured to be using imperial measurements and American paper sizes if necessary. We're using 5mm gutters, and the system's telling us that we'll get 2 A4 flyers out of each SRA3 print sheet. And it's even giving us a simplistic layout diagram. That's one A4, that's a second A4 with a 5mm gutter between them. We've then got a guillotine linked to this estimate. In our case it happens to be an EBA, but it would be any guillotine you wish, and it's going to calculate if there's a first trim or a second trim. So I've clicked finish, and the system's taken us to some other costs. So the system wants us to select what other costs are involved in the production process. Well, I'm going to add an hourly artwork charge. Let's say that we're going to do 1 hour's artwork, no matter which quantity they give us the go ahead with. I've set this artwork up as a formula, $50 multiplied by the time that's entered. I've then put a 100% markup on top. So that's coming to $100 for the artwork. I'm going to add some delivery costs as well. We'll choose this inner city delivery cost. This has been set to be a fixed cost of $25. We could also add any other pre-press or post-press costs here that we like. If, for example, we're creating a booklet, we could add booklet making and bindery costs. It's not relevant in this instance, though. I've clicked finish. The system's going to run the calculations now and take us to the estimate summary screen. We're on the summary screen now, and we've got a column for each of our quantities. We quoted for 5, 6, 7 and 800. And for each quantity we can see the cost for the paper, the press and the guillotine. We've also got the cost for the artwork that we added and for the inner city delivery. And that's being added up to give us a cost price, excluding any built-in markups, because all of these items above could have had markups built into them from when we originally configured our system. And in this case we've got quite a lot of markup in the press cost and a small amount of markup in the paper. So the system's calculated the markup amount and then given us a cost price including the markup. Now if we want, we can also add some further profit margin to this, either as a percentage or as a dollar amount. In this case I won't, and so the system's calculated the subtotal for us. It's then adding our sales tax. In this case our sales tax is called GST, but again this can be set up to be the correct tax for your country, both in name and also the percentage of the tax. That's then giving us our selling price, and the system's showing us in bold at the bottom what our gross profit will be if the customer gives us the go-ahead with this quantity. So we can see the gross profit as a dollar amount and as a percentage for all 4 quantities. And we can tune each quantity as we like. If we want, we could add a little bit more margin onto some of these. It doesn't have to be the same amount on each. And we can see the gross profit changing. On the right hand side, the system started building description fields which will appear on the customer's quote. This is a pretty basic job, but I could just add a little bit more information. We'll call it an A4 flyer, printed double-sided. Let's apply the artwork, full digital colour. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll update that. If we want, we can save phrases into the phrase book so that they're there to be used in the future. And we can also select phrases from a phrase book by clicking on the plus button to bring up our standard phrases. Just saves us having to type everything each time. If I'm happy with this, I'll click on the print email button, and the system's going to build a PDF online, and that's the PDF quote that we're going to send to our customer. We can check it on screen first, then we can email it from the system directly to our customer. So here's our quote template. In this case we've got it branded up with our logo details, but obviously in the system we have an editing tool, so you can build your own quote templates as you want them. It's going to Jenny Jones at Care Homes. We're greeting Jenny, dear Jenny. We've got our description fields that we just modified. We've got our 4 quantities, and we can see the price, ex tax, the tax amount, and the price including tax. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to click on the email button. The system's going to build an email to Jenny. It's put her email address in the to field. It's put the title of the quote in the subject line, and it's built a standard email to Jenny, so I don't have to write this email each time. If I'm happy with that, I can just click send, and the system's going to send that straight off to the customer with the PDF quote attached, either as an attachment or as a web link in the email. We're now back into our estimate. I'm going to change the status. I'm going to put that to be not approved or awaiting approval, and I'm going to save that estimate. And that'll now appear in our estimate list, and I've got my estimate list configured so that the most recently created estimates appear at the top of the list. And that's how you create a simple digital estimate in ePrint MIS.